Hey, welcome to the Simple Nutrition Podcast, a show that helps you learn practical and actual nutrition tips from an expert. I am your host, Leonela Lacampos, a registered dietitian with over 8 years of experience in the nutrition field. Hey, welcome back to another episode in the Simple Nutrition Insights Podcast. I am your host, Leonela Lacampos, registered dietitian. And today we are diving into a topic that often gets a bad rap. Fats. Yes, fat is a macronutrient, and yes, we absolutely need it. So let's break down the science, bust a few myths, and most importantly, walk away with practical tips to feel confident about fats on your plate. Fats is one of the 3 macronutrients alongside protein and carbohydrates. It's the most energy dense, giving us 9 calories per gram compared to 4 from protein and carbs. If you haven't had the chance to listen to, I want to say my last 2 episodes, maybe the last 3 because there was one in the middle. But I've done proteins and carbohydrates, myths and practical tips. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to those episodes, go back and take a listen. I also provided really useful handouts that you can use to help you make healthier decisions or choose the best protein sources for you and the carbohydrates as well. So check it out. But we need fat for brain health. About 60% of our brain is made of fat. Hormone production, especially key for women's health and metabolism. More specifically, as we go into menopause, perimenopause, we need our healthy fats, right, for that hormone production, balancing, and regulation. Nutrient absorption, vitamins A, D, E, and K are considered our fat-soluble vitamins, which they need fat to be absorbed. And also for cell structure and energy storage. So despite what diet culture may have taught us, fat is not the enemy, just like carbohydrates are not the enemy. It's so interesting that we go through different trends and different phases. And I see these a lot in my practice, right? When I talk to clients and they ask me about, carbohydrates are bad for you, you should not have fruit, XYZ, or fats are bad for you if you're trying to lose weight. And it is my job, right, as a registered dietitian to demystify these myths, right, and these misinformation. Because I also had clients tell me, there's so much information out there, and I don't even know what's right and what's wrong, or what's true and what is not. Because thankfully, right, we have the internet and we can research different topics, but sometimes the information out there is not accurate, right? Or if you're getting your information from someone that has no credentials at all, it's so important to be worried about that, right? Because they can have their own opinions. So they can say, oh, these avocados are bad for you, right? Because they have so much fat. Totally incorrect, right? And so we have to be really cautious as to where we get our information from, and also to make sure they don't have their own agendas and their own biases about it. So research-based information. So let's break down fats into 3 main categories. We have our unsaturated fats, the heart-healthy kind, which is found in avocados, olive oil, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish like salmon, sardines, tuna. So think of them as like liquid and room temperature, and they are a good fat. Now, unsaturated fats are divided into polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats. We are not going to go into the chemistry about it. But again, these are found in your plant sources as well as your fatty fish. They help increase your good cholesterol, which is your HDL, and they help to lower your bad cholesterol, which is your LDL, right? So these are fats that we want to add into our meals. They also help with satiety, right? Because they're more calorie dense. They're not going to be digested as fast versus our carbohydrates, which, if we combine them, it's going to help not to have these sugar spikes, right? Or these sugar roller coasters. And it's also going to help us to have like these cravings, right? If we're making this balanced meal. So if you want to have toast with avocado, right? Some slices of avocado. Now, I want to pinpoint here that because they are, even though they're healthy fats, right, we have to be mindful of they're calorie dense, right? They are calorie dense, so they're they have twice as much calories as proteins and carbohydrates. So we can also just not have like an overabundance of it, right? Because you heard that they are healthy and we should have a good amount of them. But we have to still be mindful of that. If this is something that you're conserving, right, in terms of like maintaining your body weight, right, or possibly losing weight, you have to consider that. If you're wanting to gain weight, this is actually a great way to increase your calories without adding an excessive amount of volume, because again, they're calorie dense. So if we're trying to gain weight, which you might think that for some people that are trying to gain weight is so easy, but it is not. It could also be as difficult as losing weight, right? For many reasons. So sometimes adding some of these healthy fats into our meals, right, a little bit of extra can help us with our weight gain goals. Then we have our saturated fats. They're not inherently bad, but moderation is key, right? Saturated fats are found in butter, cheese, coconut oil, red meat. So too much saturated fat can raise LDL, right, our bad cholesterol. And so oftentimes when I have clients that come to me and they say, okay, my doctor told me that I have high cholesterol, we focus on reducing our saturated fats, right? Our saturated fats, again, are going to come from our animal sources, but there's also 2 plant sources that can also contribute to saturated fat if we're having an excess amount, and that's coconut oil and palm tree oil or palm tree. Or too much coconut itself, right? Coconut water is fine because it doesn't have the fat in it. And so oftentimes, people think, oh, I'm just going to use tons of coconut oil everywhere, right? Cook with it, add it to whatever, and that can still contribute to your bad cholesterol. So we have to also be cautious about that. So if you have high cholesterol or high LDL, right, look into where your saturated fats are coming from. Oftentimes it's going to be in like butter, cheese, like if it's whole milk cheese or whole milk dairy products, right? Just making those little changes to fat-free or 1% will help. Or choosing your liquid room temperature oils, right? Avocado, if you're cooking, or grapeseed if you're cooking, olive oil if you want to drizzle it on something, or make salad dressings, because the smoking point is a lot higher for avocado and grapeseed oil, so they're not going to burn as fast, right? Which is what we want. We don't want to burn our oils, because that we're not gonna get into it, right? But it's not healthy for us when we're burning our oils. And you're able to find, if you're buying foods that have a food label, right? Packaged processed foods, look at your nutrition facts label. It will tell you there, fats, and then it's gonna have saturated fat. Sometimes it will have your polyunsaturated, your monounsaturated. Remember, if it says unsaturated, that is a healthy fat. If it's a saturated fat, that can contribute to, if too much is consumed, right, can contribute to increased LDL. So look at those numbers, right? Then you're going to have the percentages. And I've done an episode on how to read a nutrition facts label. So that was last year. I might do another one this year. So take a look at that, right? If you're not sure how to read a nutrition facts label, because it can be really helpful, right? So again, if we're trying to lower our cholesterol, look into where your saturated fats are coming from and try to make some changes there to help you. The next one is trans fats. So trans fats are they're solid at room temperature. They haven't chemically modified, right, by the food industry. There's also some found in animal meats, but the concern is more so when it's used in products, in packaged foods, baked products, because it has been shown to increase your bad cholesterol, your LDL, and decrease your HDL. Again, you find them in some baked goods, processed snacks, fried foods. You won't see it on the nutrition facts label because the food industry, the Food Drug and the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, told the food industry that they needed to lower the amount of trans fats that we're using because of the impact in heart health. And so it's not that it has zero, right? You will see that on the nutrition facts label that it says zero trans fat, but because the suggestion is to have less than 0.5 grams or less per serving. And so if it has that amount, which is always going to, right? Because it essentially is a regulation, you won't see it on the nutrition facts label, but you will see it on the ingredients list. So if on the ingredients list you see partially hydrogenated oils or fully hydrogenated oils, essentially that is a trans fat, right? So not only look at the nutrition facts label, look at the ingredients list to see if there is partially or fully hydrogenated oils, because again, that is a trans fat. And although it might not have a significant amount per serving, if you eat that consistently, right, or if you eat multiple products that have this trans fat, it is going to add up. It is going to increase your LDL and decrease your HDL, right? So I usually suggest, and I oftentimes don't say avoid, right, or don't add, but if there's heart problems, heart disease, history of stroke or heart attacks, or chronically elevated LDL, right, or high cholesterol, then we focus on, for a period of time, avoiding, right, not having anything that has trans fats and reducing saturated fats significantly to lower that risk, right, of having a heart attack or a stroke. So again, trans fats, look for partially or fully hydrogenated oils. Specifically, if you're buying more baked goods, right, more processed snacks, more fried foods, look into that specifically. Now, someone asked me, and this is more so because there is a trend, right, as always, about tallow and replacing all the seed oils or whatever with tallow. It's not that it's going to make the food healthier, right? Still, tallow is, an animal fat. It's still going to have saturated fat. It's still going to have cholesterol. It is solid at room temperature, so it can last longer, but it doesn't mean that it is essentially healthier, right? So it can still contribute to increase your LDL and increase your bad cholesterol, right? So we cannot just go and replace all our oils and just use them, freely, because we hear this trend, right? Because we hear this influencer saying that it's better and whatever and whatever. So you still have to be cautious, right? Because still can contribute to bad cholesterol, increase your LDL, possibly decrease your HDL. So again, be really cautious about these things that you hear or read on the internet or social media. It's better to consult with a registered dietitian to learn more about that and learn, okay, what's going to work best for me, right? Because again, these suggestions are general recommendations. It's not that that is going to be specifically individualized for you, right? It's just for the masses. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, here's how you can include fat in a balance in an intentional way. Build your plate using my 3-2-1 method. At least 3 ounces of protein with every single meal, 2 cups of vegetables, and 1 serving of carbohydrates, right? And add your healthy fats, like a tablespoon of olive oil on your veggies or a few slices of avocado to add those healthy fats and add those benefits, right, to your plate. Upgrade your snacks, right? So instead of, snacks that have maybe that are more processed or more packaged, use apple slices with almond butter or Greek yogurt with chia seeds and walnut, hummus and raw veggies. Or if you want to add some crackers, right? Whole grain crackers, ideally, they don't have any of these partially hydrogenated oils. Look at the ingredients list, and you can still add them. And they can still be part of your day-to-day, right, of your meals. We can cook smarter, right? So if we had using different oils, right, as I mentioned, using avocado oil for cooking, because it does have a higher smoking point, so it's not going to be burning as fast, versus if you were to use olive oil to cook, right? Use olive oil for dressings, as I mentioned, marinades and things like that to add some flavor to your food or to add it to your vegetables. That is a wonderful idea. And we also don't need to use a lot, right? I like visuals. And so if you look at your thumb, right, that's about a tablespoon. So if you use a tablespoon of oil, whatever the oil that you're using, that's about 200 calories, right? So it can definitely add up. So I oftentimes say, if you really need to use oil, buy this spray, right? So just to coat your pan or whatever you're using to cook, and so the food doesn't stick, right? And you can still cook your meals. Or you can even also spray it on your vegetables, right? To add some flavor, maybe saute or stir fry or whatever you want to make. And you're using a lot less oil, right? If that is the case. Don't fear fats at breakfast. Again, they can help with satiety. They can help with staying satiated for a longer period of time, right? Specifically in the mornings when we're going to be so busy. It can keep us from having cravings later on in the evening, or just keeping our hunger more stable or our satiety more stable. So add flaxseed, ground flaxseed or chia seeds to your oatmeal, to your smoothies, to your yogurt, pretty much to anything. Cook your eggs with olive oil, right? Again, if they're going to be cooked at a lower temperature, or avocado oil if you're going to cook them for a longer period of time. Top your toast with avocado or nut butter. You can even add hemp seeds to your avocado toast, right? Or to your nut butter toast. And that's one other way to add a little bit of protein, some fiber, and some healthy fats. Quick questions here that I often get asked. Isn't fat bad for weight loss? Actually, incorporating healthy fats can support weight loss by keeping you full and satiated longer. The key is, again, portion and quality, right? Not restricting it. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, we still need fats, right? Our healthy fats, because they are part of a macronutrient. So we do need them, right? We need them for hormonal balancing. We need them to be able to absorb our fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. We need them for satiety, right? And so we still need them. So don't just avoid them and eliminate them completely. Okay, my friends, lots of things to consider, lots of things that I talked about in a short period of time, but I wanted to do our last macronutrient. I think I'll be doing one on micronutrients, which are your vitamins and minerals. I do have a friend, a dietitian colleague, that she did a presentation on all your vitamins. So I think I'm going to have her join me to do these next episodes and talk about all the vitamins. But for now, I want you to remember, right, that fat is essential, delicious, and part of a balanced nutrition plan. When we choose the right kinds, it supports our hormones, brain, heart, and energy levels. So let's move away from the fear and start making confident, informed choices. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend and leave a review. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at nutrition_with_Leonela. And until next time, keep fueling your body with intention and joy. All right, my friend, take care. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye for now. This podcast, the links and resources provided are for the purpose to educate only and are not a replacement for medical advice or nutrition therapy. I suggest you seek out the help of a trained professional to help you with your specific situation and needs.